Hi everyone! Each of us has things we can't live without. A journey to the other end of the world would be impossible without them. Gadgets, books, accessories. We want to take so much with us. For many people, packing usually means stress and trying to fit as much stuff in the hand luggage as possible. Well, some people use suitcases for completely different purposes. For example, for smuggling rare animals or items of value. Today, we will tell you about unexpected things the custom officers found in the belongings of passengers around the world. Let's get it on! People in suitcases. We all sometimes joke about smuggling a loved one in a suitcase or go traveling with the cat since he loves napping there so much. But what might be an innocent joke for some people may be the only way to find a better life for others. In 2015, this boy, who at that time was only 8 years old, was discovered by the Spanish customs officer in a suitcase. A 19-year-old girl agreed to smuggle him across the Moroccan-Spanish border for a large fee. The family tried to move the kid to Europe from Ceuta, a small autonomous Spanish city on the northern coast of Africa. The problem was that the parents had permission to enter Europe while the boy didn't. Thankfully, this story ended well, and due to special circumstances, the child was soon granted a Spanish residence permit. However, his father still had to face charges for neglecting the health of the child and some other offenses. This guy also decided to risk an illegal trip by plane for a rather sad reason. He tried to escape from his native country. The poor fellow decided that he could easily pass through all the stages of customs control hiding in a suitcase. He was helped by a friend who put the unfortunate fellow into a huge suitcase before checking him in as his luggage at the airport of the capital of Peru, Lima. Perhaps this ingenious plan could have worked. However, at some point, the friend suddenly started panicking and couldn't hide it. So the officers at the airport had no choice but to ask him to show the contents of the luggage. The nervous guy began to look for excuses, but of course, he couldn't say no to law enforcement officers. In the end, the poor man hiding in his suitcase was discovered, and the two friends had to have a serious talk with law enforcement officers. A collection of smartphones. Not all smugglers transport illicit substances across borders, some are far more creative. This guy, for example, was detained by Chinese border guards when he tried to smuggle 94 iPhones into the country. He did not carry them in a suitcase, but strapped them on his own body with duct tape. The way he walked betrayed the unfortunate smuggler. His back was perfectly straight, and all his movements were too constrained. The customs officers decided to check his hand luggage just in case. Finding nothing illegal there, the guy was asked to go through the metal detector. At that moment, his ingenious plan was revealed. Photos released by customs authorities showed dozens of neatly shrink-wrapped shiny iPhones strapped around the man's chest, abdomen, crotch, and thighs. Their total value was estimated at almost $50,000. The guy was probably planning to make a lot of money. The thing is that he tried to travel to mainland China from Hong Kong, where prices for Apple devices are much lower. That is why today the black market of popular gadgets is thriving in China. Tarantulas. Last year, customs officers at a Philippine airport in Manila discovered an unusual cargo, which belonged to one of the passengers. He carried gift-wrapped oatmeal and cookie boxes, shipped from Poland. Well, what's so unusual about it, you may ask? Well, the thing is, instead of food, there was a surprise inside: hundreds of live spiders. This was the creative way the poachers used to smuggle tarantulas in Asia. Such spiders are popular pets among arachnid enthusiasts.
I don't like...
Just don't move! Don't move! Don't move! No, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine.
But in the Philippines, the trade and storage of these spiders are strictly prohibited by law, which resulted in the emergence of a thriving black market. This time, poachers tried to smuggle 757 live tarantulas worth almost $6,000, but in the end, they were detained. Gold. Economists say gold is one of the most liquid assets in the world. Liquidity refers to how easily assets can be converted into cash. And indeed, unlike the currencies of different countries, the precious metal cannot fall sharply in price or crash like shares of large companies. So it's no wonder gold is smugglers' choice number one. This story happened in the Indian city of Kolkata. The cleaners of one of the commercial aircraft found an unusual stash in the toilet of the airliner arriving from Bangkok. To be precise, they discovered 24 pure gold bars worth more than $1 million. The ingots were found in 2 bags, and the weight of each bar reached about 1 kilogram. The owner of the valuable cargo was never found, but his plan obviously failed. Here's another creative way of smuggling. This man from India decided to transport small gold bars by fixing them to his feet with duct tape. Well, he did not think this would affect the way he walks. That is how customs officials noticed a suspicious passenger and asked him to take his shoes off. Turned out that the offender also had an accomplice who was hiding the gold under the dress. In total, the couple tried to smuggle more than a kilogram of precious metal. Snakes. You've got to admit that customs officials at airports have probably seen it all, so it's pretty hard to surprise them. But this guy from China managed to do it. This story happened in Shanghai airport. When one of the officials saw abnormal images on the scanner screen, he couldn't understand what exactly he was looking at and asked the passenger to open his suitcase. Imagine how shocked he was to see that the weird wriggling lines on the screen turned out to be a swarm of real snakes. The owner of the portable terrarium tried, of course, to persuade the officials the snakes were toys, but they weren't so easy to fool. 121 snakes of all sizes and colors were uncovered in the smuggler's suitcase. This passenger was detained in Chennai airport with a whole zoo of rare animals: a horned pit viper snake, 5 iguanas, 4 blue-tongued skinks, 3 green tree frogs, and 22 Egyptian tortoises were found in his luggage. All of them were stuffed in between his personal belongings, snacks, and other stuff. Luckily, the animals were eventually sent back home to Thailand, and the unsuccessful smuggler was detained. A tiger cub. At first glance, it might seem like there are several stuffed animals in the luggage. The owner, who was on a flight from Thailand to Iran, must have been hoping to fool everyone. But one of the toys on the photo is actually a real tiger cub, groggy from all the drugs he was fed. Luckily, the customs officers at the airport were very thorough while scanning the suitcases and noticed that the toy inside looked suspiciously like a real animal. The baby tiger was eventually sent to a wildlife conservation center, and the smuggler was detained. A python. Here is more proof of just how creative poachers and smugglers can get. While checking the bags, customs officials at Miami International Airport found a very unusual cargo, a very heavy computer hard drive. They got suspicious and called for bomb experts, who found a live python inside. The passenger that tried to take it with her on a flight headed for Barbados got away with a fine. Dead people. Turns out things like this don't only happen in TV series or detective stories. Sometimes people try to smuggle the bodies of their dead relatives on board, like these 2 women who were detained at Liverpool airport. They didn't put them in suitcases like other smugglers. They had their dead relatives strapped into a wheelchair, hoping that nobody would notice they weren't breathing. Unusual mattress. Europe has been suffering from a global migration crisis since the spring of 2015. The situation in many African countries became so unstable that their citizens began to cross the Mediterranean Sea and other borders of southern Europe to get to the other continent. Some of the refugees get really desperate in their attempts, like the people in this video. They were trying to pass a Spanish checkpoint inside the mattresses. Of course, that's where their journey ended.
Oh, hello there.
Sandals with a secret. Some women prefer shoes with high platforms to those with elegant heels, as they are more comfortable. Turns out these shoes are not only made for walking. This young woman was getting on a flight from Belgium to Colombia when the customs officers found 180 pounds in her shoes. The money was found in the luggage of the passenger, who was presumably involved in drug trafficking. An interesting detail. This gas mask was discovered by customs officers in a carry-on bag of one passenger in Miami International Airport. He wasn't allowed to keep it because of the fake bullets, which are illegal to take on board. The customs officers at Detroit Metro Airport decided to confiscate this bottle of liquor because it was too large. Not only was the large bottle of liquor prohibited, but so were the 5 seahorses inside it. We wouldn't wish for any customs officer to discover such cargo. Here's an actual prop from a horror movie, and not just some long-forgotten movie, but the classic Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. This dummy was used for shooting scenes featuring Nub and Sawyer and was bought by a fan of the movie from the costume designer several years ago. The owner says that this prop became the jewel of his collection. Now everyone wants to take a selfie with it, including the officials at the airport. That's it for today. See you soon!